11, Darien Fenton.
My question is to the Minister of Immigration. What steps has he taken to ensure that New Zealand workers are given priority for jobs in the Christchurch rebuild and migrant workers are given temporary visas are protected?
Speaker.
Order. Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Mr Speaker, in answer to the first question, the number one priority is jobs for New Zealanders, and I work with my colleagues, the Minister of Social Development and the Minister of Tertiary Education, to ensure appropriately skilled Kiwis are at the front of the queue for jobs. We've introduced the Canterbury Hub, where job seekers, employers, MB and MSD all come together to make sure New Zealanders are at the front of that queue. But there's no doubt we'll need workers from overseas. So in respect of the second question, we've introduced legislation with tough new penalties for exploitation of migrant workers. I've asked officials to turn their turrets on employers, not employees, and we've provided support for employers on issues with migrant workers. We are regularly engaging with migrant communities to help them spread the message that the rule of law in New Zealand to all workers is important, regardless of their visa status.
Supplementary question, Darien Fenton.
To the Minister. Why has he granted visas for migrant workers to work in jobs like forklift drivers, builders, labourers, clerical administrative workers, labourers, painters and truck drivers, when these types of jobs could have easily gone to our out-of-work Kiwi workers with minimal training?
Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Well, I repeat my answer to the primary question. We are very focused on ensuring that an appropriate number of skilled New Zealanders are at the front of the queue. But the task of rebuilding Canterbury is going to be a massive one, and it is no doubt that there are going to be high levels of requirements for migrant workers.
Order. Supplementary question, Darien Fenton.
Thank you. To the Minister. Why have no prosecutions been completed under either the Immigration Act or labour laws for migrant workers in the last year, despite repeated complaints of migrant worker abuse?
Speaker.
Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Well, Mr Speaker, a prosecution is not necessarily a sign of success. It may well be a sign of failure, and I know that the Labour Inspectorate and the Immigration Compliance Team work extremely hard when they receive complaints to solve the problem before a prosecution becomes necessary. And I'm very satisfied that as far as it is reported to those agencies, that is working. But if the member has cases where she believes action is not being taken, I'd be very happy to hear from her.
Order. Supplementary question, Darien Fenton.
Why doesn't Immigration New Zealand record the number of complaints from workers on temporary visas, thus making it impossible for him to know the size of the problem or if the problems have in fact been fixed?
Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Well, Mr Speaker, Immigration New Zealand is not the only source of complaints. They come through the 0800 number on the Immigration New Zealand line. They go to the Labour Inspectorate. They go to the police. To simply say that Immigration New Zealand is the only source of that data would probably understate and mislead the scale of the problem.
Supplementary question, Darien Fenton.
How can he be confident he's promoting Kiwi jobs and protecting migrant workers when they are approving migrants in low-skilled jobs, not prosecuting breaches and not even collecting the data?
Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Well, the significant data that I think was mentioned by the Minister of Social Development in an answer to an earlier question was that there has been a significant reduction in number of unemployed in New Zealand since 2010, and more than half of young male Christchurch residents now have work when they didn't a couple of years ago. There's no doubt that Kiwis are getting those jobs, but there's also no doubt that foreign migrant workers are going to be required to rebuild that city.
Order. Question number 12, Te Urora Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Kia ora tātou katoa.